The sun rose softly over the kingdom of Alda. Golden light touched the tall stone towers, spreading across the palace gardens where flowers opened one by one. The palace staff moved quickly through the halls, preparing for another busy day, but they did not know something unusual was about to happen. In the center of the palace, Princess Leela walked toward her morning lessons. She was 11 years old, bright, gentle, and loved by the people. She carried a small book pressed to her chest and hummed quietly as she passed the guards. Her brown hair was tied neatly behind her, and she wore a simple blue dress, the one she always chose for study time. Beside her walked Rowan, a young royal guard with a calm face and sharp eyes. Rowan had trained for years to earn his place near the royal family. Though he was only 20, he was known for his steady mind and clear sense of duty. Leela trusted him more than anyone else in the palace. As they approached the study room, Rowan noticed something strange. A group of servants stood together whispering. They kept glancing toward the eastern wing, where the queen's stepsister, Lady Marin, spent most of her time. Rowan slowed his steps. Something felt wrong. Inside the study room, Leela took her seat. The tutor greeted her warmly and began the lesson. Rowan stood near the door, watching the corridor, listening for anything unusual. He did not like the whispering he had seen. Servants only whispered like that when trouble was near. After an hour, the lesson ended and Leela stretched her arms. Rowan opened the door for her and walked with her toward the dining hall for breakfast. As they reached the corner, they saw Lady Marin standing in the hallway. Lady Marin always carried herself like she owned more of the palace than she actually did. She wore fine clothing, bright jewelry, and held her chin high. Standing beside her was a girl around Leela's age. The girl had curly golden hair and delicate features. She wore a perfectly fitted pink dress, obviously designed with care. The girl stood silently, eyes lowered. Rowan immediately stepped in front of Leela, bowing respectfully but keeping his guard posture. Lady Marin smiled brightly at Leela. It was a smile Rowan never trusted. "Princess Leela, good morning. I have been waiting for you. I want you to meet someone very special. This is my granddaughter, Nira." Leela gave a polite nod. "Good morning, Lady Marin." "Hello, Nira." Nira lifted her head slightly. Her voice was soft and unsure. "Good morning, Princess." The air felt heavy. Lady Marin's smile stayed in place. "Too wide, too sweet, I think," Lady Marin said, her tone dripping with false warmth. "That Nira should spend more time with the royal family. She has excellent posture, fine manners, and is very graceful. I believe she would be a wonderful example for the kingdom." Rowan's eyes narrowed slightly. The words sounded harmless, but something hidden sat behind them. Leela smiled kindly. "That is nice. Maybe she can visit sometimes." Lady Marin clasped her hands together as if she had been waiting for that moment. "In fact, Princess, I have arranged for Nira to take your place in the royal portrait ceremony today. The new painting will be displayed across the kingdom. Everyone will see her in the royal seat." Leela froze. Rowan felt his heart tighten at the boldness of the woman's words. He stepped forward at once. His voice was calm but firm. "Lady Marin, that is not allowed. Princess Leela is the rightful royal heir. No one takes her place in official portraits." Lady Marin looked at him with annoyance, though she kept her smile for Leela. "This is only for the painting. The people love new faces. My granddaughter has a certain glow that could bring freshness to the royal image." Rowan spoke again. "The royal seat belongs to Princess Leela. Permission for any replacement must come from the king or the queen. You do not have that permission." Lady Marin's eyes flashed, but she quickly hid it behind another smile. "I spoke with several advisors this morning. They agreed that a change would be interesting. I am acting only for the good of the kingdom." Rowan stepped fully in front of Leela now. His posture shifted from polite guard to protective shield. "The king is the only one who can approve such a change. The princess will attend the portrait ceremony herself." Lady Marin's smile dropped for the first time. Her voice sharpened. "You are only a guard. This does not concern you," Rowan answered steadily. "The safety and dignity of the princess is my duty. Anything that threatens that is my concern." A tense silence filled the hall. Leela, who hated conflict, stepped gently beside Rowan. "Lady Marin, I am sorry, but I must be in the painting. It is tradition. I do not want to break palace rules." Lady Marin's jaw tightened. She put a hand on Nira's shoulder, squeezing it lightly as she forced another smile. "Of course, Princess. I only thought you might enjoy a day of rest. Nira can still join the event and watch." Rowan nodded. "That is acceptable." Lady Marin gave a short bow and walked away with Nira. Her steps were smooth, but the anger in her stiff posture was clear to Rowan. When the two disappeared around the corner, Leela looked up at Rowan with worried eyes. "Why did she want Nira to sit in my place?" Rowan spoke gently. "Some people want more power. Some want attention. Nira may be innocent, but Lady Marin is not. She wants influence she does not have." Leela lowered her gaze. "I do not want trouble in the palace." "You have done nothing wrong," Rowan said quietly. "I will make sure nothing unfair happens to you." Leela gave a small smile and continued walking beside him. Later that day, as preparations for the portrait ceremony began, Rowan stayed close to the princess. Painters carried brushes and colors into the grand hall. Assistants arranged a high chair with gold designs. It was the seat meant only for the royal heir. Leela stood by the window practicing her posture. Rowan watched her with calm attention. Then he noticed something again. A servant rushed into the hall, whispering to another. They kept glancing toward the door that led to Lady Marin's wing. Rowan walked over. What is happening? The servant hesitated. So Rowan, I heard Lady Marin is preparing another plan. She sent someone to the Queen to ask for sudden changes. Rowan's eyes hardened. Thank you for telling me. He returned to Lila's side. Whatever Lady Marin intended, he would not allow her to disturb the ceremony or the princess as the artists prepared their paints. Rowan stood tall behind Leela. His hand rested lightly near the hilt of his ceremonial sword. His mind stayed sharp. Nothing would happen to the princess, not while he stood guard. The grand hall slowly filled with soft light as the servants finished their preparations. Bright banners hung along the walls, and the golden chair stood proudly at the center. The kingdom's finest painters worked quietly, arranging the colors and adjusting their brushes. Everyone wanted the royal portrait to be perfect. Princess Lila stood near Rowan, looking a little nervous. She had been in many public events before, but sitting still for a long portrait was never easy for her. Rohan noticed her small fidget and gave a calm nod. You will do well, princess, he said. Lila took a steady breath. I will try my best. Before the ceremony officially began, 2 senior attendants arrived to give final instructions. Rowan listened carefully as they explained the schedule. Lila would take the seat first, and after a few test sketches, the main painting would begin. Just when everything seemed peaceful, the double doors opened again. Lady Marin stepped inside with slow, confident steps. Her gown was grander than before, shimmering under the hall's light. Neera followed her, looking uneasy but obedient. Rowan straightened immediately. Lila felt her shoulders tighten. Lady Marin walked forward as if she belonged at the center of the event. The hall fell silent. Everyone had heard rumors that she had tried to change the portrait plan earlier, and many wondered what she would attempt now. Good morning to all, Lady Marin announced. Her voice rang through the hall. I bring important news regarding today's ceremony. Rowan stepped forward, blocking her path to the princess. Lady Marin, you were already informed that Princess Lila will take her rightful seat. The ceremony is set. There will be no changes. Lady Marin smiled sharply. I understand your concern, Sir Rowan, but please stand aside. I have spoken with the Queen. A soft murmur spread through the hall. Several servants exchanged worried glances. The Queen granted me permission to advise on the portrait, Lady Marin said, raising her chin. She believes Neera should be present in a more important manner. The kingdom deserves a new symbol of grace. Rowan did not move. Where is the Queen now? Lady Marin blinked. She is resting. She said she trusts my judgment today. Rowan kept his tone calm but firm. Did the Queen give this order in writing? No. Lady Marin answered quickly. Then it is not an official order, Rowan replied. Nothing changes without her signature or the king's word. Lady Marin's smile faded again. A hint of frustration appeared in her eyes. For a moment, she tried to keep her composure. But Rowan could see the mask slipping. This portrait is more than a picture, she said. It shows the future of the kingdom. Neera has perfect composure, perfect posture, and perfect grace. She belongs in this painting. The painters looked at each other, unsure of what to do. Leela stepped forward timidly. Lady Marin, I respect Neera. She is kind and polite. But I am the princess. I must be in the portrait. Lady Marin let out a slow breath, trying to recover her elegance. She placed a hand on Neera's shoulder again. Princess, you are young. You may not understand the weight of public opinion. The kingdom needs someone who shines more brightly. Rowan spoke before Leela could answer. Princess Leela shines because of her kindness and courage. The people love her for who she is, not for perfection. Lady Marin's expression hardened. A god should not question noble decisions. Her voice grew colder. Please step aside. Rowan shook his head once. I cannot. The hall went completely silent. Servants watched with wide eyes. Painters held their brushes still. Even Neera looked frightened now. She lowered her gaze, clearly wishing she could disappear from the scene. Lady Marin stepped closer to Rowan, lowering her voice slightly. You overstep your role. I can have you removed from service. Rowan stood firm. If protecting the princess costs me my position, I accept that, but I will not move. The intensity between them grew stronger. Lila looked between them, unsure what to do. Before she could speak again, the doors opened once more. This time, the Queen entered. The entire hall bowed instantly. Queen Ilara walked forward gracefully, though she looked tired. Her light blue gown trailed behind her, and her crown rested softly on her dark hair. Rowan bowed deeply. Leela rushed to her mother's side. Lady Marin froze for a moment, then forced a sweet smile. Dear sister, you arrived sooner than expected. Queen Ilara's eyes stopped on Rowan first, then on Lila, and finally on Lady Marin. She looked calmly at everyone, reading the atmosphere with practiced skill. I heard commotion from the corridor, the Queen said. Would someone explain why my presence is needed during a simple portrait session? Lady Marin stepped forward quickly. I was only trying to help. The kingdom deserves a portrait that inspires pride. I believe Nira should sit beside Lila or even take her place for artistic reasons. Queen Alara raised an eyebrow. Take her place, Lady Marin nodded. Nira has a natural charm. She could bring a refreshing look. I thought it would please the people. The queen turned to her daughter. Lila, did you ask for this change? No, mother, Lila answered quietly. I want to take the seat myself. Queen Ilara nodded. She looked next at Rowan. Sir Rowan, have you interfered beyond your role? Rowan bowed. I have only protected what is right, Your Majesty. Princess Leela is the rightful heir. She must be in the portrait. Lady Marin tried to override that. The queen's eyes softened for a moment. Thank you for your honesty. Lady Marin cleared her throat. Sister, please understand. I only wanted what is best for the kingdom. Queen Alara finally turned to her fully, and her calm voice took on a sharper edge. You do not have the authority to change royal traditions. The portrait is a symbol of the future. There is no future heir except my daughter. Lady Marin tried to speak again. Nira can still be valuable to the kingdom. Of course she can, the queen replied. But she will not replace Leela. Not in this hall. Not in any royal event. Nira looked greatly relieved. She gave Lila a shy smile, and Lila smiled back kindly. Queen Alara gave a single command. Lady Marin, please take a seat at the side. You may watch, not direct. Lady Marin's pride seemed to break. Her lips tightened, but she bowed. As you wish, Your Majesty. She led Nira toward the seating area, moving slower than before. The queen then placed her hands gently on Lila's shoulders. My daughter, take your place. Lila walked forward and sat in the royal chair. She felt nervous, but also proud. Rowan stood behind her, steady and watchful. The painters lifted their brushes and began their sketches again. That is, the quiet work resumed. Rowan kept his eyes on Lady Marin. Something in her expression told him the trouble was not over yet. She watched Lila with a look that carried more than simple disappointment. Rowan tightened his grip on his sword belt. The great hall grew quiet again as the portrait session continued. The soft sounds of brushes mixing color filled the room. Princess Lila sat with her back straight and her hands resting gently on her lap. Her eyes stayed fixed on a small golden crest painted on the far wall, helping her remain still. Rowan stood behind her like a strong pillar. His eyes never rested. He watched every servant, every assistant, every shadow along the walls. He knew Lady Marin well enough to understand that silence from her was never true peace. Queen Alara sat nearby, calmly observing the progress. She trusted Rowan's judgment, especially after the confrontation earlier. She also knew her sister's nature. Lady Marin always wanted influence, even if she hid that desire behind polite smiles. Lady Marin sat on the side with Nira. She kept her posture graceful, but inside she was restless. She watched Leela taking her rightful place with a mixture of envy and frustration. Her hands tightened around her fan each time she glanced at the golden royal chair. Nira, on the other hand, looked uncomfortable. She kept her eyes lowered, folding her hands in her lap. She did not want trouble and clearly felt heavy being part of her grandmother's plans. One of the senior painters stepped forward. Princess Lila, we will begin the next stage. Please hold your position for a little longer. Lila nodded politely. I will try. Rowan saw her small shoulders tense. She had been sitting still for almost an hour. Her legs were stiff. Rowan leaned slightly and spoke quietly. You are doing well, princess. Just a bit more. Lila smiled a tiny smile. His calm voice always helped her. But while the hall appeared peaceful, a small group of servants near the corner whispered again. Rowan noticed. Their eyes flicked toward Lady Marin's seat. Rowan moved a single step to the side to get a better view. He saw something. One servant carried a rolled paper. The servant tried to hide it under a tray of brushes. Rowan's sharp eyes caught the edge of a red seal on the paper. It looked like an official royal seal, but slightly different in shape, as if someone had tried to copy it. Rowan's stomach tightened. A forged order. Lady Marin was not finished. Without drawing attention, Rowan walked toward the servants. The tall windows lit his armor softly as he approached. The servants looked frightened when they saw him. What is that paper? Rowan asked calmly. The servant holding the tray started shaking slightly. It is nothing important. Sir Rowan. Rowan raised a hand. Give it to me. The servant hesitated. Rowan repeated. Give it to me now. The servant slowly handed him the rolled paper. Rowan unsealed it and read the lines inside. His jaw tightened. It was written in Lady Marin's style, even though she had tried to mimic official wording. The letter claimed that Princess Leela felt unwell and wished for Nira to take her place for the remainder of the portrait. The queen's name had been signed at the bottom, but the signature looked poorly copied. Rowan looked directly at the servant. Who told you to bring this? The servant swallowed. I cannot say, sir. I was told to place it on the main table during a break. That is not an answer, Rowan said. Who gave you this letter? The servant hesitated again, then whispered, Lady Marin's helper. Rowan took a deep breath. He did not want to cause a scene in front of Leela, but he could not allow this plan to move forward. He rolled the letter tightly and walked straight toward the queen. Lady Marin noticed him and stiffened. Queen Ilara looked up as Rowan approached. He bowed slightly and held out the paper. Your Majesty, I found this with the servants. The queen unrolled it and read quickly. Her expression shifted from calm to cold. When she looked up at Lady Marin, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "Is this your work?" "Marin," Lady Marin stood up quickly. "I do not know what that is. I had nothing to do with it." Rowan stepped forward. "Your Majesty, the seal is false. The signature is incorrect. Someone is trying to make it appear that the princess agreed to leave the portrait session." Queen Alaray's voice sharpened. "Who benefits from this change?" All eyes turned toward Lady Marin. Lady Marin lifted her chin. "I am being blamed unfairly. I would never forge your name. Perhaps a servant acted on their own." Rowan shook his head. "The servant admitted he received it from your helper." Lady Marin's expression faltered for a moment. She struggled to speak, but no words came. Queen Alara rose from her seat. Her voice echoed through the hall. "Marin, this is not simply mischief. This is an attempt to interfere with royal authority." Nira looked terrified. "Grandmother, please stop," she whispered. Lady Marin closed her eyes for a moment, then paced forward. "I only wanted what is best for the kingdom. Lila is quiet and shy. She does not carry the same presence Nira does. I thought the portrait could be improved." Queen Alara responded firmly. "Lila does not need dazzling presence. She carries kindness and truth. Those are the strengths of a future leader." Lady Marin's voice rose. "People admire strength and beauty. They want confidence. They want someone who looks prepared from a young age." Rowan spoke clearly. "The people love Princess Lila because she listens and understands them. Her heart leads her actions." Lila, still seated in the golden chair, felt a wave of emotion rise inside her. She never asked for a royal title and never demanded respect, but seeing Rowan stand up for her made her understand her responsibility more deeply. Queen Alara looked at the painters. "Pause your work." The hall froze again. She turned back to Lady Marin. "Your actions show ambition, not love for the kingdom. You tried to replace my daughter. You tried to forge my seal. This cannot continue." Lady Marin lowered her gaze. Her proud posture weakened for the first time. She knew the Queen's tone left no room for excuses. The Queen gestured to Rowan. "Sir Rowan, what do you recommend regarding this matter?" Rowan was surprised, but he answered respectfully. "Lady Marin should be removed from any influence over royal events. She cannot advise on matters involving the princess. Her actions today show she cannot be trusted with authority." Gasps spread across the hall. Lady Marin's eyes widened in disbelief. "You think you can decide my fate?" she snapped. Rowan kept his voice calm. "I only speak the truth. The princess deserves safety and fairness, and that requires strong boundaries." Queen Alara nodded slowly. "I agree." Lady Marin's shoulders shook with anger. "You choose a god's words over mine. I choose honesty," Queen Alara said simply. Nira stepped forward with trembling hands. "Grandmother, please stop this. I do not want to be in the portrait. I never asked for this. I only want peace." Lady Marin turned to her granddaughter. For a moment, the anger faded, leaving only sadness. She realized her ambition had frightened the child she claimed to care about. Queen Alara signaled to attendants. "Escort Lady Marin to her chambers. She will remain there until further notice." Lady Marin's eyes filled with frustration, but she did not fight. She allowed herself to be guided out of the hall. Her steps heavy and slow. The doors closed behind her. The hall felt lighter. Lila finally relaxed her posture and looked back at Rowan. "Thank you." Rowan bowed slightly. "I am here for you, Princess." Queen Alara placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Let us continue the portrait. The kingdom will see you as you are, strong in your own way." Lila sat tall again. This time her confidence came not from duty, but from the people who truly believed in her. Rowan resumed his place behind her, but he knew trouble was not fully gone. Lady Marin would not accept defeat easily. But hall settled into calm again after Lady Marin was taken away. The painters resumed their work, moving their brushes with careful strokes. Princess Leela held herself tall, her expression gentle yet steady. She knew the kingdom looked to portraits, like this one, as symbols of hope, and she wanted to honor that meaning. Rowan watched her closely. She seemed more confident now, and he felt proud of her. He stayed behind her chair, keeping his posture strong. Troublemakers usually waited for moments of weakness, and Rowan refused to give them that chance. Queen Alara stayed seated a short distance away, observing carefully. Her attention shifted often between the painters, the guards, and the doors. She trusted Rowan, but she also understood that Lady Marin's ambitions might stretch farther than anyone expected. As time passed, the painters began preparing the next layer of color. They asked Leela to raise her chin a little. Rowan stepped forward slightly to adjust the lighting near her so her profile looked clearer. His movements were quiet and smooth. He always avoided distracting Leela, knowing she had to stay focused during long sessions. Nira still sat on the side, folding and unfolding her hands nervously. Without Lady Marin near her, she looked lost. She kept her eyes lowered, as if she was ashamed for having been part of the earlier trouble. She looked at Lila from time to time, then away again, afraid to speak. After another half hour, one of the painters said, "Princess Leela, please relax. We need a short break." Leela sighed with relief. Her arms and back were stiff. Queen Alara stood to stretch her legs. Rowan stepped closer to Lila and offered her a glass of water. "You are doing very well," Rowan said softly. Lila smiled. "Thank you. My legs feel like stone." "That is normal," Rowan replied. "Sit and rest for a moment." Lila stepped down from the royal seat and walked slowly around the hall. She stopped near one of the large windows to breathe fresh air. Rowan followed closely, giving her space but staying within reach. Nira finally gathered the courage to approach Lila. Slowly, she rose from her seat and walked toward her, stopping a few steps away. She held her hands together tightly. "Princess," she began in a trembling voice. "I am sorry." Lila turned, surprised. "For what?" "For everything," Nira said quietly. "I never wanted to sit in your place. My grandmother made all the plans. I did not know she would go this far. I only obeyed because she gets angry easily." Lila gave her a warm smile. "You did nothing wrong. I know it was not your choice." Nira's eyes softened with relief. "Thank you for understanding." Rowan, watching from a short distance, felt the tension ease. Nira seemed honest. She was only a child caught in her grandmother's wishes. Before the break ended, Queen Alara stepped forward. "Let us return to the portrait. We must finish before the afternoon meetings." Lila took her place again. The hall grew quiet once more as the painters positioned themselves around her. Lila breathed slowly and lifted her chin just like they had instructed. As Rowan resumed his guard stance, he noticed the tall doors of the hall shifting slightly. One door moved an inch, then stopped. The guards near the entrance did not react immediately. Rowan's eyes narrowed. Something was happening behind the door. Rowan signaled the nearest guard with a quick hand gesture. The guard straightened and moved toward the door. When he touched the handle, the door pushed open suddenly. A breathless palace messenger stepped inside, holding a sealed letter. He bowed quickly. "Your Majesty," he said to Queen Alara, "I bring a message from the king. It arrived from his council meeting." Queen Alara frowned. "The king rarely sends messages during portrait sessions. Bring it here." The messenger hurried forward. Rohan stepped between the queen and the messenger until he confirmed there was no threat. He let the messenger pass and then stood behind the queen while she opened the letter. As she read, her expression shifted. She looked at Rowan, then at Lila, then back at the letter. Everyone waited in silence. Finally, Queen Alara spoke. "The king has been informed of suspicious activity involving Lady Marin. He writes that she attempted to convince members of the council that Lila should be replaced in future ceremonies." Gasps echoed through the hall. Rowan's eyes turned sharp. Lady Marin was not only trying to change the portrait, she was trying to change Lila's position in the kingdom itself. Queen Alara read further. "The king orders that Lady Marin be questioned and monitored closely, and until he returns, no one may alter royal decisions made in his absence." The hall buzzed with whispers. Everyone seemed shocked at how far Lady Marin had gone. Rowan spoke quietly to the queen. "Your Majesty, she is more ambitious than we believed. She is trying to build influence around Nira." Queen Alara nodded. "And she thinks removing Lila from public view will help her granddaughter." Nira, who had been listening, looked horrified. "I do not want that. I never wanted any of this." The queen placed a comforting hand on the girl's shoulder. "I know, child." Rowan stepped forward. "Your Majesty, allow me to secure Lady Marin's chambers. I do not trust that she will stay in place after hearing this message." Queen Alara considered this, then nodded. "You may go, but leave 2 guards here with Lila." Rowan bowed. "Yes, Your Majesty." He turned to Lila. "Princess, I will return soon. Stay close to the queen." Lila nodded, though she looked worried. "Be careful." Rowan walked out of the hall with 2 guards behind him. The corridors felt colder than before. He passed servants who lowered their heads nervously. Everyone knew something serious was unfolding. When Rowan reached Lady Marin's chambers, he found 2 attendants standing outside the door. They bowed quickly. "She has not left," one of them said. Rowan pushed the door open. Lady Marin was inside, pacing the room angrily. When she saw Rowan enter, her eyes flashed with irritation. "You again," she snapped. "Have you come to lecture me?" Rowan kept his tone firm. "You have been ordered to stay in your chambers. The king himself has sent word. You will answer for your actions." Lady Marin laughed in disbelief. "The king is not here. I will not be trapped in this room." Rowan stepped forward. "Your choices today put the princess and the kingdom at risk. You tried to push your granddaughter into a role she never wanted." For the first time, Lady Marin's voice cracked slightly. "Nira deserves recognition. She is talented and bright. She deserves to be seen," Rowan replied calmly. "She deserves freedom to grow in her own way, not through your ambition." Lady Marin turned away, gripping the edge of a table tightly. For a moment, Rowan thought she might calm down. Then she spun back toward him. "If the kingdom sees Lila as weak, they will follow someone stronger. I have visions for the future. You cannot stop me." Rowan's stance tightened. "I already have." Lady Marin glared at him. Her anger was clear, but Rowan stood still, grounded like stone. At last she turned away again. She walked to the window, staring out at the gardens. "You think you have one," she said softly. "But this is not the end." Rowan replied. Do not make this harder for Nira. She wants peace, not power. Lady Maren did not answer. She kept her back turned. Rowan stepped out of the room and locked the door from the outside. He assigned the guards to stay there at all times. As he walked back to the hall, he felt the weight of everything that had happened. Lady Maren's ambition had grown into something dangerous, but Rowan was not afraid. He knew his duty, and he would stand with the princess until the very end. When he returned to the grand hall, Lila looked relieved. The painters resumed their work again, but Rowan sensed that the final conflict had not yet arrived. Lady Maren's last words echoed in his mind. This is not the end.